Hello and welcome again to another episode of derangement and mental stuff. So yeah, just what I would like to start off with, we're getting on to the topics of some pretty serious stuff, right? And I'm not trying to say that any of this is like like sounded at this point, like true and all that sort of stuff, you know. And if I would like to in the future be talking about um, religious and all this sorts of things, if it's going to come from um, uh, if I'm going to say it's right, then I'll go with that. Do you know what I mean? But I know there's mistakes in what I'm saying because at the moment I'm just I'm asking questions and I'm posing thought and all these sorts of things. So, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But one day, hopefully, I will say things which I truly believe and I'll stand by them and all that sorts of things. And that'll be, it'll be an experience as well. And that will be more. I'll be a different person. There will be, there'll be music. There'll be like dancing. There'll be LSD flowing. I mean, what I mean by LSD, I mean uh, silver coins, of course. Libra, sterling, denominini, papapini. You know, that sort of stuff. Yeah, obviously. Um, but yeah, till then, anyway, we're gonna just sort of settle in and talk about some other crazy things. Okay, and what are we talking about today? Well, at the moment, we're talking about um, angels and dragons today. So the last episode we had was on God and the plausibility of God, and what an alternative sort of understanding of the word. And there was other points which I've forgotten, which I wanted to actually add in. So maybe I'll do a bit of an extension, a shorter extension, just to cover those little points. And I'll note them down. I say them because Wizard other notes. There's loads of avenues you can go down, and that sort of stuff. But this is more um, uh, not scientific, but more alternative understanding of words and in mythology or whatever. Okay. And you might be thinking, all of these things, they're all a bit fanciful, and this isn't really my cup of tea. But I have other stuff planned which isn't like this. And I just thought, for the beginning, I don't know. I thought I'd go for a load of simple single topics to talk about, and I wanted to have some cohesion. And sort of one thing's led to another, and they're sort of this nature. But we'll get back to some funny stuff, and but I think there's a market for this sort of thing. Maybe not religion, but definitely for like stoner sort of interesting things and that sort of thing. You know, people are interested in um, conceptions of life, and see, people seem to be getting more into the idea of like magic and cards, and that's all right. It's all well and good. It's interesting and good for you. As long as you're not trying to be evil. In what case, um, you want to sort of pack that in, I guess, because it's not very nice, actually. Mm, yeah, and you can have a bit more fun. You can do all the same things. You can do all the same stuff in a good way. Yeah, maybe something pretty. Anyway, angels and dragons. Now you're thinking angels, okay? Well, no, they both sound pretty farcical and far out ideas, don't they? And pretty plausible. But after I think dragons was actually the thing which led me onto the concept of gods could be patterns, like number patterns, but they wouldn't really be. They'd be more sort of irrational patterns than they would be actual patterns. Because I've always been interested in. This is the stoner side of me. Now I don't really smoke like cannabis anymore. Um, but certainly when I was younger, I used to be quite interested in it. And um, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I was interested in the idea of drugs, okay, and sleep and hypnosis and science and all that sort of thing. And it sort of led to my appreciation of like, sorry, I had a hair on my mouth, of fractals, right? And I've always loved them, and I've always thought they're just beautiful, brilliant, incredible things, you know. And then one time I was looking into fractals or something, and I heard about these things called dragon fractals, right? Or this particular sequence called the dragon fractal, which is like it's like a little line thing, and then it keeps going, and it's a fractal. Yeah, if you've never seen a fractal before, look them up because they look great. If you have, look up the dragon fractal, and it's just a good one. And then I was starting to think, what if, right, dragons before were organic fractals? Okay, and in my number theory, and I don't know if this applies with other number theory, which is the interesting part, is once you get to 6. Now, once again, I'm not saying this is right, but this is just sort of in my naivety. This is what I've applied, I think, to this. 6 was like fractal, and a good representation for that is like the Star of David sort of thing. Now, if you've ever seen the Star of David, you know it's a triangle with three smaller triangles on the outside. Yeah. Now, and then that bit that's missing, right? Because once you overlap, you get two triangles. You overlap them. That bit that's missing continues on the outside, I think, right? And that potentially goes on forever. Now, I don't know if that is right, but each time it goes down, it just keeps going on forever and ever and ever. Now, I don't know if that's perfectly right, but it'd be nice to know it is. Because I've never actually measured all the values of all the triangles, but if that's how that fractal is valued, it's the same as just two triangles, and the center, the hexagon, is the same value as the outside of all the smaller triangles on and on and on and on and on forever, because it's not just Star of David, but it's the fractal star. And then I was like, wow, that's the representation of 6, right? That's what 6 is as a number on the 2D plane, maybe. And then 7 was slightly different. And 7 was like a moving fractal. And I was like, wow, 7 represents like life then, maybe. And it was also a fractal, but it had like motion in the mix and time in the mix or something. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird because like 4D is hard enough to get your head around anyway, no. But yeah, I was like, well, 7's a representation of like a never-ending fractal or something, or I don't know, or maybe 8 was eternity or something, and that was why it was the figure of 8, so the eternal symbol. And then it didn't go to 9. I don't even think it went to 10. I think it went to 11 and then 12, right? And then 9 was, I want to say subsequent, but I don't think that's the right word. Like a subtraction from 8. Like you had to take something away from 8 to make 9. And then I was like, 9 is representative of like death or something, or like reaping or something. And maybe that's why 9 is a similar shape to 8, but there's a little bit of it missing. I mean, it's not how I got to that conclusion, but then after you look at the shapes, you're like, well, these are the symbols are sort of similar to the concept. And then 10 was similar to 9 in the fact it was a subtraction of 11. And 11 was a similar fractal in the fact that it was like an eighth. So it was like 1 to the power of 1, which was the same as what 1 is. And then 12 was like 1 to the power of 2 or something, which was also still 1, but it was also still 12. And then it sort of, that was it. I guess then I think there's probably more numbers and all the alternative numbers between those numbers, but my head was a bit cooked at that point, and I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'll stop at 12, I think. Oh, there was such a significance, I think, between 12 and 8, that it sort of, that seemed to be like the close of the bracket, so to speak. I think, maybe. But yeah. So anyway, 7. 7, and I'm like, wow, there's a sort of like moving fractal thing. And then you hear about all these like 77s and all these weird things. And all these like animals and stuff, they also have different well, they're not like number values or whatever, but they have these sort of like patterns to them, don't they? So bees will have like a queen, and then they have all the worker bees, and then they'll have like drone bees and stuff like that. And that's it. That's a basic hive, and it's just simple, and it's there. But then I was thinking, what if there was bigger organisms? Like, what if bees have been cultivated from an even larger queen or something, an even larger animal? Because could you imagine there's like this huge hive mind creature, which is with the dragon, and at the center of the dragon is the same creature again and again or something, which sort of takes on to this sort of like evolves, and then it gets like other particle matter to it and stuff. And then there's all of these like smaller fractal creatures that come off of it, and um, well, I don't know. I think seven's quite recurrent in a lot of science. Like they say we live in 7-year cycles and all these sorts of things, and all that sort of strange stuff. But something which I learned, right, is lobsters apparently can live forever, right? And I would just imagine, when I first started to imagine dragons, I was thinking the best way I could imagine it was like a big sea monster, a big sea lobster thing, which lived forever and it was really wise. And it was giving off all of these little smaller baby lobster things, which they all lived into it and they nestled into each other. And it was just like a one big hive thing that could swim through the water and maybe even through the air as well. And it didn't necessarily breathe like we breathed. And, it was like a complex organism, but it was so powerful that humans actually like fought them, cultivated them, captured them, spliced them down into more manageable beings, because sea creatures and stuff, especially powerful ones, could be potentially quite poisonous and stuff. And we want them to be nice and fleshy and tasty and manageable. So that's when I was thinking, like, wow, dragons, not only might they be actually like possible, real, and real in the past, in a sort of sea creature way, but they might even be really real, like like how they've been described, like actually real, like actually breathe fire and stuff, which seemed completely far out. But yeah, so I was thinking, yeah, there was like loads of dragons, and what would a dragon be? A dragon would just be a sort of connective sort of feature. It would be a fractal amongst beings, which grew into a larger organism. But in a particular way that would, be characterized as a dragon. And then I learned about like the military term dragon and stuff, and dragoon, and all of these sort of you hear you hear of like the KKK and stuff. They say, and like witches, they say, oh, they've got you've got like warlocks, you've got dragons, you've got wizards, and all these sorts of things. All these like really weird titles, which might not make sense to the outside person, but potentially, and maybe this isn't what they do in their organization, but maybe originally, a long time ago, when people had these sorts of organizations, a dragon was a person who had an idea which was like a resounding idea amongst people and can not only trigger it into other people, um, but can act autonomously, individually, and with the greater organization through an understanding. So where I've talked about the skunk before, right? That there's this idea that in human nature and the human mind, we do create the same ideas as other people. Now, if those people, were in three different locations or whatever, and they were all operating in the same processes, individually or in 77,000 people, you know, that's pretty decent, isn't it? It's pretty powerful. And you don't have to worry too much about passing on information. Because once you understand the dragon, you know, you're part of an operation and you can disperse and you can regroup and you can do all these things without necessarily, like, the protocol, the understanding. So, do you know what I mean? Weird stuff, isn't it? So that's dragons, apparently. Um, well, I think anyway, dragons could be or could have been, and it's interesting. Um, and then angels. I probably should have started with angels, and I think I've already talked a little bit about angels in previous videos, and I don't really. I think the dragon thing sort of distracted me quite a lot, but there's a lot of different types of angels, and how they're different from gods or something. Like, for example, you've got Mars or whatever, or other people would be said to be like the god of war. But then you've got Archangel Michael, who's sort of like the archangel of like war and soldiers and stuff. Um, and you've got Gabriel and loads of. There's the arc. There's I think there's like maybe 12 archangels or more. But even now, where I've said these number things, it makes me wonder whether there's old ideas of numbers which are different to like what units. So where they would say there's 12 archangels and then there's actually more than 12 angels, it means it's because they are like the number 12 and like what it means to be the number 12. And like where they say that Jesus was on the cross and there was two people around him, there was three crosses, that might not mean there was three crosses, like 1, 2, 3. It could mean there was a line of crosses for going on for a long, long time. And like one cross would be one cross, crucified. Two crosses would be a line, two-dimensional line of a certain amount of crosses. Three crosses would be a network of crosses going on over a period of a long time. And that's what the Romans did. They'd crucify people along their roads, just endless roads, all of the roads, surrounding people, surrounding all the areas for, I don't know, I want to say nigh on, I don't really know, but for years and years and years, they just crucify people. And Jesus could have been one of these people in just a series of crosses, you know? And then where it says that Jesus was actually taken down from the cross, it really makes you think, did the disciples beat the Romans, you know? Because I imagine it'd be quite hard to take Jesus down from a cross, you know? So this idea of rolling away the stone sounds quite dangerous, um, quite difficult to do. Um, but angels. So all of these angels, potentially, they mean different mean different things. And I don't know, are people messengers of the angels, or are the angels the conceptions of idea, or the perpetrators of the idea, the facilitators of the idea? Because you might think, well, what's Michael going to do for me? What's Gabriel going to do for me? Well, I'll tell you that these people, right, these warriors or whatever, or these people in struggles, who, you know, don't necessarily want to die, and they need that power to pull out their own heart. Because you see the Sacred Heart, right, in Christian ideology, but you also see similar things in potentially like Viking stuff. And it could be potentially quite a brutal thing of actually like exposing the heart out of the rib cage, you know, or this how the samurais would stab themselves in the heart. Um, like, how difficult is that going to be? How much, what muster of how do you bring about that power to be able to stab yourself in the heart, you know, and you have to spirit that somehow, and that could be a residing element in humans, which is in all humans, and you can bring it out in yourself if needs be, but you're not supposed to actually carve out your own heart. Do you know what I mean? And that's a powerful sensation, um, as you can imagine, I'm sure. And I think you'd want that to be a good person rather than a bad person. And it's not all doom and gloom. Because, sorry, excuse me, muttering and sipping my tea. Because, yeah, if Gabriel's enlightenment, that's also a sensation. That's also enjoyable. And, maybe they're not the angels, but maybe they're the products of the angels. And there's something to, really enjoy and look into as well, because it might be quite hard to understand, but people say that people get possessed by demons, don't they? And there's certain things which lead you onto evil paths, and that's not as hard to understand. You see someone acting irrationally, you say, oh, something's possessing them. There's an idea which is possessing them. It's taking them over, which is, transcendent of the human experience. So, if you can understand that, then maybe you can understand angels a bit better. And I could be wrong, but the angels, they mean something. The names mean something. All of our names mean something, and that always interests me. And I don't know, that would be really quite magic as well. Magic is actually Polish, I think, for Michael, funny enough. I think. But obviously, Magi and all them things are different things. But we could probably learn more about our language to what we don't really know, and what I'd be quite interested to do. But what I'm saying is, it would be quite interesting to know that we take after our names, because even without knowing them, like, that'd be quite strange, wouldn't it? Like, you look at someone and you go, that's a that, you know what I mean? That's a this person. And then they grow out with this name and it means something, and they're characteristically like that. And that's a bit strange, isn't it? But yeah. That's angels and dragons, I think, a little bit. There's probably different types of dragons. There's probably different types of angels, and it's quite interesting. But yeah, interesting. I guess. And I hope you enjoyed that, and we probably talk more on it in the future. Thank you for watching.